Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica and I'm a little bit nervous to be filming this video today. I know some people that watch my other channel, which is all based on like makeup and beauty, project painting and that kind of stuff. I know some of those people will come over and watch this, and this will find some other people that might be living with the same issues that I have. And then there might be some people that watch it just because I'm a train wreck. So welcome to the channel. I am doing this channel primarily as a journal for myself, a little bit of therapy, if you will. And quite frankly, a lot of this is going to be a journal so that my kids can look back on it later, because I know I'm going to forget some of these things, and I feel like it's important for them to be able to watch it later and see progression of things, as well as be able to use it as a reference, because this is going to affect their lives later. So now that that sounded very cryptic, I'm sure the name of the channel and whatever I title this video will probably make a little bit more sense, but I am living with chronic illness, as many people in the world do, and I have been living with this for a long time, longer than I've had a diagnosis, and I have been seeing a new rheumatologist because I went for a while without seeing a rheumatologist prior to 2020, and then I just saw one 2 weeks ago, and I haven't seen one since probably, I'm going to say like 2012, when I was pregnant and gave birth to my first child. So it has been a very long time, a very, very long time. And I really should have seen a doctor sooner. But you know how mom life is, you get busy and you don't. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. I first saw my first rheumatologist 2008, and I was happy with that rheumatologist. He was great, and we didn't do a whole lot besides testing. I had tons of blood testing and like this kind of testing, that kind of testing, and we did eventually figure out that I had markers for some things, but not complete, full-blown diseases on some things. Like I have markers for, or at the time they found out I had markers for lupus, I had markers for fibromyalgia, and a whole bunch of other things that I don't even remember because it was so long ago. A definitive diagnosis of psoriasis, which does run in my family, and a definitive diagnosis of psoriatic arthritis. I have mentioned that on my other channel, but if you're not familiar with my other channel, you wouldn't know that. And I also was diagnosed with mixed connective tissue disease, as well as Raynaud's and cold urticaria, which is basically I'm allergic to cold. I know that sounds weird. It's a thing. I swear it's a thing. You could look it up. But if I get too cold, I get hives literally all over my body, and it is unpleasant to say the least. But that is like the least of my worries. So I've been dealing with this. I could have been put on some medication back then, but in 2008 is when I got married, and we were trying to conceive a child. And we were trying to conceive when I was still working on some testing, and then my rheumatologist had gotten some blood work back, and he said, stop trying to conceive, which we did, and that was when he found the markers for lupus. And if anyone knows anything about lupus, you know that it can be very difficult to maintain a pregnancy if you were to get pregnant. But further testing proved that I did not have lupus. I did have some of the markers, but not all of the markers. And we finally got the go-ahead to try to get pregnant again in 2009, which we did, and we promptly lost that baby. And tried again for 2 more years, and then went through IVF. That's a whole nother thing. Maybe I'll go into the whole IVF process sometime down the road, but for right now, we'll just work on the autoimmune kind of issues. So I did get my diagnosis in 2009 for all of those things that I just, told you about. And I could have been put on medication, but again, we were trying to conceive. We did, we lost a child, tried for 2 more years, ended up doing IVF, and that was successful, and I have my older son. Did another round of frozen embryo transfer, had a miscarriage. Then we did another round of frozen embryo transfer. I'm stumbling over my words. And we had another son who is now 10, which, you know, my oldest is going to be, he's going to be a teenager at the end of March, which is kind of crazy. So then after my younger son came along, we had a few embryos left, and we decided that we were going to give them a chance, and we, you know, we're going to go for another round, and we ended up using all of the remaining embryos, and we had my daughter. So that was that. All of my embryos were given a chance. I ended up with 3 children who I'm very in love with because they're wonderful and beautiful, and they are God's blessing, which, you know, I could not have done it without science and God's grace, because apparently my body just, you know, had other thoughts. We didn't realize at the time that I had certain things because they were just diagnosed, which makes a lot more sense now, looking back, why I had so many difficulties. But needless to say, I went through many years of pain, but I didn't want to be put on harsh medication because my aunt is also a sufferer of psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, and she takes medication, and I feel like her side effects are worse than the disease. I mean, it's pretty horrific to have psoriatic arthritis, but some of the side effects to me just aren't worth it, and they haven't been worth it. But I have been having more and more health issues, so I decided it was time to go to see another rheumatologist. I needed to find one because mine had retired. Actually, technically not retired. He went into the military. So I have been hunting for a new rheumatologist that was not one that I had to drive excessively far for, and I was able to finally find one after many, many years of searching, and I'm very glad that I did. So lo and behold, I go to this new rheumatologist 2 weeks ago in a day, and I just had my initial consultation. She was amazing, because I've heard horror stories about other people seeing rheumatologists that they're just dismissed for their pain or their issues or whatever. This doctor, she was hands down like one of the best doctors of any type of medicine that I've ever dealt with. Love her so much. And she listened. She just sat and she listened. She asked some questions, never made any judgment, and would ask me random questions that didn't seem logical when she was asking them. Just, you know, random things about like, do I get a dry throat? Do I get dry eye? Just little things here or there that I thought that was the weirdest questions, but you know, she's the doctor, and she let me talk, and I would tell her about the pains that I had here or there, which I'll eventually discuss, but probably not get into all of them today. And then, you know, we talked about my family history and that kind of stuff with my mom's side, because I don't really know my dad's side that well, but you know, I was able to talk about some of that family history, like medically family history. And after I kind of like asked all my questions, she asked all of her questions and stuff like that. She said, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that she strongly believes that I have fibromyalgia. And then she did ask a few more questions, and we have determined that I absolutely have fibromyalgia. And based on some of the questions she asked, even back as far as my childhood, she suspects that I've had it for pretty much most of my life, which is fun. It's a lot of fun. If you are not familiar with fibromyalgia, it is absolutely miserable. And it hasn't changed. The fact that I've gotten this diagnosis, like, my pain hasn't changed, but I have a name to explain some of the issues I've had in the past that I still currently have, and why it's progressively getting worse. So if you've watched any of my other videos on my other channel, I've alluded to medication that's kind of got me feeling a little wonky. I was put on gabapentin, which helps with the nerve ending misfires that people with fibromyalgia deal with. Wow, tongue twister. And that's another thing, if you watch my other channel, I do sometimes stumble over my words. I can't think of certain words. And apparently fibromyalgia also causes brain fog. So that explains a whole lot. And so we did tons of testing. Even though she diagnosed me that day on the consultation, she said that she wanted to do like a full blood panel workup for me because I have back issues and issues with my hips. She had me get spinal x-rays, hip x-rays, everything, you know, that was a major problem area. And I had my follow-up with her yesterday. And she was just as amazing yesterday as my consultation, because sometimes doctors can be kind of cool the first time you meet them. And then, you know, the personality kind of wanes a little bit. Not with this doctor. She is just amazing. And we sat and talked about like the past couple of weeks that I had since I had seen her last, and talked about some more things. And then she went over my results, and they sucked. They really sucked. Some of the things that I had been previously diagnosed with were confirmed. Some of the others were questionable. Like I would have weak positives, so not enough to really determine that I actually have certain things, and some things are still questionable, because with autoimmune, you don't always get all the answers right away. You have to do multiple testings. So that's always fun. And one thing that did pop up that is very concerning to me is I tested positive for AS. And if you don't know what AS is, I'm gonna try to read it. I'm gonna try to pronounce it because it is a tongue twister. It is ankylosing spondylitis, and it is just as horrible as it sounds. From the way it was described to me, and this is a loose interpretation because it's not actually that, it is like having rheumatoid arthritis of the spine. So I am just a carrier of the gene. It does not mean that I have full-blown AS, but it does mean that it can strike at any time. It may never strike, which is like the ultimate goal. That is what I'm hoping for. But I mean, I could be fine one week and then have a flare and it starts. And once it starts, I feel like the way it was explained to me is you're going to have problems with it forever after that. And once it starts, it doesn't just attack your spinal column. It will go to your hips, it will go to your knees, which are two areas that I already have problems with my psoriatic arthritis, but then it becomes systemic, where it starts to affect your entire bodily system, which is kind of scary. And part of the reason I am journaling this is because I carry the gene, which means it is potential that my children are now carriers of the gene. And I hate that. I absolutely hate that for them. I didn't know that I had all of these issues, like psoriatic arthritis, psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis they're bad enough to potentially pass on, but all of the other things, it's not something that my kids should have to worry about. So that is why I am doing this as like I said, a journal, a chronicle, or whatever for them, for reference. And I want them to be able to look back and see, like I said, the progression, and see what worked for me, what didn't work for me. So if they end up having to deal with this later, maybe those things, because they have my genetics, will work for them as well, if I can find some things that work. And you know, maybe it will make that a little bit easier. So I kind of feel like with this channel, I'm going to just chronicle my day-to-day life. I might not post every single day, but I feel like I want to post frequently enough so that that progression is obvious. And I want to have hope that while I may not necessarily overcome these illnesses, because as of right now, there are no cures for any of the things that I have, there is only symptom management, which I'm working on, and I can discuss that in another video, and some lifestyle changes that I'm going to be working on. But I want hope. I want hope that I can live with this, and I'm not going to die young like my mom, because she had a lot of health issues, and she died at 56, and I'm not there yet, but I'm not horribly far from there. And I don't want to die at 56. I want to be around for my kids, because my kids are young. They're 8, 10, and 12 right now, and I have a lot of life to live. I want to live it, and I want to be here for my kids. So yeah, I'm fighting it tooth and nail, and I want to, like I said, I want to offer hope for them. But if anyone is crazy enough to watch my stuff, my crazy ramblings or whatever, if anyone finds it interesting, helpful, or whatever, I kind of want to be a beacon of hope for other people that are dealing with these things, that there are other people out there and they're living their best lives, and there are things that we can get through. I mean, we may not be able to fully overcome them, but we can get through them. We can live life, enjoy life, make a difference to ourselves, our family, to others, and we can do it with a positive attitude, and just kind of be a community for each other, to support each other, to lift each other up, and just find a better way. I don't know how to end this, because this is a new thing, sharing a lot of personal stuff. I have done it occasionally here or there on my other channel where it affected my ability to post, but as a general whole, I am usually a very, very private and reserved person. And so this is going to be a little bit of a change for me. So we're just going to have to wait and see how often I can post. And if there's any questions that anybody has, please put them down below in the comments. Like I said, I'm not sure how often I'm going to post, and I'm just going to play it by ear, but this is my journal, and this is my life with chronic illness.